I contacted my good friend Sarah Glidden in the beginning of July when I found out that our final project had to be an interview with someone in the career choice of our choice, and my choice is becoming a social worker. So on July 12th, I went over to Sarah's house and with the intention of my kids watching her kids to focus solely on the interview and help my kids keep her kids entertained and play. Sarah graduated in 2006 with a BA in social work. I feel this interview is very successful and we're able to dig deep in her career as a social worker. I was comfortable in talking with Sarah in the interview, went on for about 3 hours as we discussed specifics that she experienced while Sarah was able to keep her stories confidential. I feel I get more of this assignment than what I originally had anticipated, which allows me even more opportunity to reflect on the interview in my career path. I'm thankful for this opportunity to interview Sarah, learn about her career path, and more about the career interests. However, I'm nervous about preparing this speech and talking about Sarah, as I don't want to offend her if I leave something out or misinterpret something in the interview. Sarah was chosen to help me with this project as she has been a lifelong friend who has always supported me in my ventures of life. I have always been able to trust Sarah with confidential situations and to come with her and say I need help. Sarah has been there to support system for me when I got married, when I had my 2 amazing kids, when I was going through my divorce, the challenges and rewards of being a single mom who shares custody with my ex. Sarah has been very supportive of me taking this class as she helps me relax and look at these speeches as just talking and explaining my thoughts on a particular subject in an organized way. She reads through all my speeches and offers great advice on where to put certain parts of my speech and explains why they should go there. Sarah has provided me with so many tips to get through the class and has mentioned great ideas that I feel I have allowed me to grow and improve in speaking in front of others. Sarah has worked in many fields as a social worker, including schools, in children's mental health, in a nursing home, and in child protection worker. Sarah explained that each area has its own challenges and struggles, but at the same time, rewards and eye-opening experiences. Sarah's favorite area of working as a social worker has been in a nursing home. Sarah revealed that she loves seeing the residents smile. Most of the time, any interaction with them was uplifting and positive part of their days. Sarah also stated that their relationships were built to a level that Sarah wanted them to be with the residents. If she wanted a strong relationship, she would spend a lot of time getting to know the resident, their family, and their history. If Sarah was not looking for a strong relationship, she would spend less time with that resident and their family. This lack of relationship oftentimes only occurred with the younger residents whom had frequent visitors throughout the day and were in the nursing home for a very short time for rehab. The relationship was not as important with those residents. Sarah explained as her time was more valuable with those who did not get visitors and were long-term residents. The area that Sarah struggled the most with working was in child's mental health. When Sarah was working there, she was working for a grant program, and the program was all voluntary participants and their families. While Sarah enjoyed working with the vulnerable children, building relationships and creative plans for success, there was one major problem for Sarah. The program was all voluntary on behalf of the family. Oftentimes, Sarah would build a relationship with the child and family, and then the family would choose that they wanted to do and when they wanted to do it. The families would show up or not show up. They would follow part of the recommendations, but not all of them. They would participate only to get the incentives, such as a trip to the Twins game or Valley Fair tickets. This was very stressful for Sarah, as there was no authority to get the family to comply with meeting their child's mental health needs. With the families Sarah was working with while doing mental health case management, most of the time they were not a candidate for child protective services, as their basic needs were being met and they did not meet the criteria for court mandated services. This struggle caused Sarah a lot of stress on the job and was no longer something that she was interested in. Sarah and I discussed Sarah's experience in working with child protection, as that is the area that I have the most interest in. Sarah said that the job was very rewarding as you are protecting children from very harmful and unsanitary environments. The hard part of this job, Sarah explained, was removing the children from their homes and placing them into foster homes. The look of fear on their faces and the children is something that Sarah will never forget. Sarah knew that removal from the current living situation was necessary to ensure the safety of the child and to give the child a chance to have being successful in their own lives. However, it was still heartbreaking. Sarah also said that the child protection workers, she was always fearful that the reuniting of children and their families would be unsuccessful and even worse off than before the removal of the home. Sarah stated that she made reminder notes that she left in her office that reminded her of those successful stories do exist and that the goal with the referrals she gets. It became too much for her after working there for 18 months. Sarah's first desire to be a social worker arose when she became a high school mom. Sarah decided to raise a child on her own and accept the support of those in her community, many of which were social workers. Some of the support Sarah received from social workers included financial planning, working out a schedule for daycare, work, and school, and finding a safe and affordable housing, along with parenting and emotional support. Sarah said this was very beneficial to her as a young single mom, and it resulted in her to have the desire to give back to those in need, such as Sarah was. Sarah explained that being a social worker is more than just a job that offers continual paycheck. The social worker provides that support and guidance of those who may need it. A social worker is an influential person that affects the lives of others and builds relationships where needed, along with advocating for their needs. Without those relationships, some children, families, and individuals go through life not knowing how they will get through each day, not knowing if they will be able to provide for those families' basic needs in the coming days, or even if they will be able to meet their individual children's and family struggles. Safe and healthy choices are taught, encouraged, and discussed with many to help the family stay safe and together. A social worker does not want to break up families. They want to involve early in to ensure the family stay together. While many people are willing to accept help, there are others out there that don't want to be a part of the system. As a social worker, it is a part of a job to encourage and to support and to help them to accept it for the time being and to be able to pay it forward in the future if possible. Social workers don't just provide education to those in need of support, they provide education to the community as a whole when times arise that education needs to be communicated. Social workers are not just for those in need, they are there for the support and advocate of individuals. Many times social workers will advocate the community as a whole in the informational setting. Sarah has done this many times as a social worker in advocating for what services are available, especially the free lunch program for schools, along with clothes drive and backpack food programs. Sarah says she enjoys doing this as she lives in a smaller community and knows many of the people in the community, which speaking to the community is easier prior to report to build. The opportunity to educate others, Sarah says, is her way of reaching many more people and affecting even many more lives. As a social worker, Sarah feels the most important thing that Sarah has learned is that everyone has their own story. Sarah feels the most important thing, childhood, teenage, and adult history, genetics, parental engagement, spousal acquaintance relationships, struggles in life, success in life all are a part of one story that make each person unique. Each person has their own needs and their own desires for their needs to be helped, and as a social worker, we need to respect their story and help them continue forward in a safe and healthy choices. This may be where the education comes in, as some people don't understand the hazards effect of choices and need to be educated on life situation or what services are available. Being an effective communicator is the most important part of this job as a social worker. Communication builds rapport, trust gains trust that can be extremely important in life guidance and can be ultimately save a life. As a social worker, you need to be clear and easy, understandable by those you are working with. Communication needs to be the language most familiar with. Communication with others is essential, as more than likely you are not the only one working with the family. There are other agencies involved: law enforcement, medical, and school personnel. As a social worker, listening is very important. You need to listen to truly understand where others are coming from. Active listening is required, which means paraphrasing, summarizing, nonverbal gestures. When working with individuals of different ages, it is important to use the appropriate words in a conversation. This helps to build the respect. The details of a conversation must be documented from what is being heard to ensure adequate information is always available to refer back to. And if it comes to going to court and becomes necessary. This active listening takes practice. The best way to practice this is to listen to the conversation, take notes, and then as a person who you are talking with, if the notes you took are accurate and if the most important details are documented. Communication is huge as a social worker, and the documentation of the communication